Hello, hey. I'm new.
Good morning, Mark.
Just gonna give people a couple of minutes for a chance to join, and then um,
Did you see that there's a seat on the governing board of the CCC?
yes.
I think you guys should be on it, but
You think your guest should be on it?
no, you guys, you, JPM,
Oh,
as a
I
related
to
party. Yeah, it's all vendor,
right.
so
I talked to Mike Bursell about this,
okay,
and I basically said we need somebody to represent a customer.
exactly. That's you.
Uh, right. He agreed, but so I said, okay, well, consider it my submission. But we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Um,
You will consider submitting your
well,
application?
I mean, I already did
Oh, you
informally
did. Okay.
over email. I basically said, consider this my application, but it was like a short email. Uh,
To Mike only?
to Mike, to Mike
I see.
only.
I
Yeah.
see.
I'm, sometimes I do self-promotion. This is not one of those times. Oh, um, no, we have an individual here who has not come off mute or turned on his video hanging in. So I put him
Hello, hang in.
down here. Don't know if he wants to introduce himself. Do you want to introduce yourself? Say hi.
We can't hear you. You're off mute, but we cannot hear you. There must be a problem with your microphone.
Can you hear? Hello?
Now we can. Now we can. Hello.
Nice, nice, nice. Great to see you here. This is Han. I'm from Fala Cloud. We're also a part of the CCC member.
Yep.
And I am the co-founder and the CTO here. This is the first time I joined the Workload Identity meeting. It's a little bit early here, but today I just by chance I joined this meeting to listen what's happening here, and glad to see you all here.
Where are you based, Han?
I'm based in SF.
San Francisco, yeah. So Mark is also on the West Coast. So uh,
Right,
thank you guys for getting up at 6 a.m. Yeah.
right.
Nice,
Uh,
nice.
all right. So let's get going. We'll see. So I wanted to start today by introducing to this group a couple of issues that have been proposed as feature enhancements to Spiffy/Whimsy. So we can let's see, review this one. And let's start with this one. This is 313, and this is support for sidecar service meshes. This is really, I believe, a, a brokered acquisition of credentials for workload. So if you just take a quick look through this, again, in the meeting minutes, you see the link if you want to type it in. By the way, here, I can put the meeting minutes in the chat, as I will sometimes do. Um, all right. So, but yeah, again, you can see that. But yeah, take like 5 minutes to read through this because I don't want to poison the discussion with my um, view of it. And Hank, for you, uh, it would have been helpful to sort of see the history of our discussions here. Uh, but maybe it's better that you didn't, so you can have a fresh pair of eyes. But this is replacing the direct call to the workload API, SPIFFE workload API, with this broker that talks to what they now call the SPIFFE workload endpoint. It used to be called the agent, I guess. And that calls the workload API for it. And again, this is just a proposal. But if there's something to be said for it, we can discuss. And I'll just open this delegated identity API of Spire here for anybody who wants to read.
So basically, the broker is an yet another actor in the trust chain.
Yeah, right. So basically, and what they're calling is that it's multi-tenanted, so it can return all SVIDs for oral workloads the Spire agent is authorized for.
I'm not in the mood of reading the whole thing, but what is the actual intent? Why? Because I don't want the workloads have to be broker aware now instead of being spiffy
Right.
aware and talking to the agent
So
directly.
instead
What's
of
the
calling the
intent?
workload API directly, they call the broker that will go and fetch. Um,
Why does that help?
well,
What's the benefit? Shouldn't the broker
so
be part of the agent? I mean,
Beefy, right. That's kind of yeah. So Beefy does not support deployment of brokers that act on behalf of multiple workloads to sit in between the. So that's yet another level of interaction that seems to be at the first blush that this broker does what agent is supposed to be doing.
exactly. So I don't know. I don't understand why,
Yeah,
what the purpose is. They must have a use case that is.
right.
Maybe
Well,
it's because the ambient mesh or Istio mesh, they have. Oh, I see. It's because they probably have a broker in their architecture. So the workloads in an Istio mesh talk to a certain protocol, whatever, a certain API to the broker, and they
yeah,
don't want to change that. They want the broker to be able to, a single broker to be SPIFFE aware.
yeah. So that's
Okay.
this ambient mesh. And then when I look through, this is the delegated API. So really what it does is it says, well, you can subscribe to some X509 SVIDs and then, or to bundles. You can fetch JWTs and you can subscribe to bundles. So you basically get JOT, so you can get X509s. And the response is, well, XVID with key that has the workload and the key. This is the one that worries me because in our proposal, the key
Right.
needs to, which by the way, if this could be very much an encrypted key, right? So we're not like strictly in,
Right,
but
right. But then your workload needs to be aware again, right? Because the workload would need to receive the decryption key,
yes,
the
yes,
unwrapping key.
this is
So
the
so
delegated API. Yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the bottom line is that every time you add an actor in the middle, it should be attested, it should go through attestation, be verified, and be, inherently secure so that it can pass keys to other
right,
actors.
right. XFID, yeah. So where is XFID with key used here? A way to select it and just look for it. Message XFID with key. I'm just trying to figure out where else is it used. Um,
I
oh,
mean,
so
we
when you get,
basically, yeah, we're basically clashing against the idea that they consider the node to be trustworthy.
yes, yes, we are.
So it's systematically the same problem.
Hmm. Okay. Well, anyway, so this is one, and this is like for us, this is we can basically yeah, talk to these people, basically say, but you have to understand that in some cases the workload, the key cannot never leave the workload, and you need to give us maybe an alternative for that,
Right.
and that could be done by commenting on this issue. I don't know what the yeah, keeps attestation and workload API separate concerns like it is today, which again, kind of misses the point.
Yes. The more you
Right. Okay.
separate, the more you have to re-stitch together trust and verifiability.
Yes. Okay. I also kind of like that whatever this web page does is basically takes Mermaid and renders it in real time. This is really nice. Okay. The second proposal, again, this is 355. Uh, we can again take a look.
What's the UDS again?
I do not know.
Okay.
Maybe if I open Spiffy workload endpoint, there is a mention of UTS in there. Unix domain socket.
Hmm. I see. They're anchoring trust in local connectivity. Okay.
So this responder says it's workload and the node attestation in one step, which really isn't correct because the workload here does not attest. Yes.
That's right.
So again, I think there is like this massive misunderstanding of what workload attestation is, certainly for confidential computing, which
Well,
causes all.
I don't think it's a misunderstanding. I think it's they use the term differently, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So that's the and we discussed that I think a few weeks ago. We couldn't
right,
come up with a better term than attestation, so or we said assertion or something like that, but
right,
they assert essentially, yeah, we do a real attestation. They do an assertion. Somebody is asserting that the node is trustworthy.
right. So again, this one, unfortunately, it doesn't provide sort of swim lane diagram, uh, an explanation of what they're hoping for. But here's an agentless support. Maybe we can take a look at this feature request just to see what is being said here. So they gave a talk at KubeCon, SecurityCon. I see they have secret retrieval. So maybe this is a presentation worth watching.
Yeah, and there's a image signing and secret retrieval.
Hmm. So there is an agentless contribution. the number of ways credentials can be bootstrapped in the real world is really quite large.
It's
It's kind of
it's
hard.
it's because there's no North Star. If you don't know what you're optimizing for, you can do anything, right? So
Right.
there's a million ways to just do whatever if you don't specify the objective.
Right. Well, I mean, we're not going to have the time to review the presentation here,
No.
but it is available, so it can be downloaded and viewed, and I'll probably do this uh, just to know how to respond. But certainly, platform attestation is not the same as workload attestation, and that needs to come across. Okay. All right. So back to our submission. So what? Yeah. Okay. So I added, I think during the meeting last week, I added this again. Let me put this link in the chat. And
I
Hank,
think I had
if
to
you,
drop off quickly. Did you guys, Hank, you and Hank were still discussing when I dropped off, but
yeah,
there was any last minute, revelations or decisions?
um,
I didn't watch the video.
no, I think a little talking past each other. We were going into. I thought that was a bit of a rabbit hole. Like, does it actually matter that the attester is multiple things, CPU, GPU, NIC, and then the verifier could also be multi-verifier? And I'm like,
Oh, I
I was
see. Yeah.
I was trying to
That makes
express
sense.
that, well, yeah, if you zoom in, these boxes become smaller boxes. Uh, so evidence is about multiple trust execution environments, and the verifiers also need to orchestrate between themselves. But from the point of view of this diagram, that actually doesn't matter. There
Right.
has to be a primary key holder, of course, to speak on the behalf of the entire tester. And I didn't know quite to what to do with it, but it did add this paragraph because of something that mm, which. But then when I reread it, I added this with change tracking. But when I reread it, it's really no different
Than what you already
um,
had.
than yeah. And for purposes of keeping it short and targeted, maybe this is not needed. So I guess the feedback I'm looking for is, uh,
Which one is
you
better?
know, so there is a to-do here. So we talk about credential bootstrapping to separate the RATs relying party being a credential authority or a key store. So we talked about this. So there is the idea in RATs that this is the relying party that receives attestation results, and that's the end of the road. Whereas under this proposal, maybe we should make it bit more clear that what rats call the relying party, that for us is either credential authority that returns a key plus credential, or it's a key store that returns just the key corresponding to a credential. So again, that's a to-do. Once this is answered, I'll close it. But then the second thing is, this is the original wording. There is a comment by Marcus Rudy here that I responded to, and so, but again, I
So, but
didn't
wait a
close the
minute.
response.
Wait a minute. If you what you just said, like the rights go back. If the rights verifier, sorry, the rights relying party has some additional functions beyond what rights determines it does, why would that concern rights at all? They may
Uh,
just
it
say,
it doesn't. So, but so here's the subtlety here. One of the things that was discussed now that it's coming back to me last week was that, well, it could be that the new relying party is the what I call the rats unaware relying party is still the rats relying party if we were to combine the rats relying party into the verifier. So, right, the idea is you go to the verifier, you submitted evidence, it does some things plus these things, and what you
right,
get back. But turns out that's actually that does not work. And the reason that doesn't work is you need to have a clean upgrade from version 1 to version 2, uh, where for a period of time, two versions are both valid while until you phase out one. And that model doesn't capture it. So you really do want to keep it um, the two boxes separate and introduce the new one, because
Well,
there's the thing, a change in evidence,
yeah.
that is submitted here uh, is simply not uh, cannot have basically cannot have a corresponding change in the policies on the final recipient, the rats unaware relying party.
Yeah, but the unaware, yes, but the rights relying party could be collapsed with the verifier, and you could have a migration path between V1, V2 of a workload because as long as the appraisal policy for evidence is itself updated, right?
Um,
Because then the verifier can decide that V1 and V2 are acceptable for the time being, and
uh,
only V is acceptable.
correct. I guess yes. But again, the verifier is usually something that deals with evidence and endorsers and whatnot. And this, I mean, this is really a separate service. It really is a separate service. And attestation results in the real world. So the attester, when it goes to the verifier, is actually the one that receives attestation results, right? This picture is actually misleading,
Yeah, I
right? So
agree.
the attestation results flow from the attester.
No,
Uh,
I think no. It is the attestation results are a function, as you had said, right, of the attester evidence.
yes.
Yeah,
Well, they're like different boxes. You go talk to one, then you go talk to the other. So, I mean, if you combine these two into one, then
then you don't have
uh,
the problem.
um,
I mean that we the more you split, the more complicated it becomes because you need to indeed, update things in multiple places or have, reestablish, stitch trust together again, right? By authenticating everything, exchanging keys everywhere, securing communications between every actor. So it is. So anyway, the bottom line is I'm not sure if we say it's if the what we are adding, right, the passing of a key or credential to the attester is basically just another sub box within the rights relying party. I don't think that the rights folks will care because they're going to say then you can just put it as a separate box. Could we have a separate box, assuming that we play the game by just breaking every function down? You would have the rights relying party that would have an arrow to well, as you said, the key store or the credential issuer, and that's what would then talk to the attester. We split the rights relying party box in two. We keep the rights, function the way it is, and then we have the credential or key store, um, talking to the investor, receiving what? An output of the rights relying party.
well, what is rats relying party then? Like, say
Yeah, exactly. What is it? I agree with you. It's relying party owner appraisal policy for attestation results. So it makes the decision whether or not it accepts the attestation results from the verifier, and then decides to unlock, right? To tell the key store or the credential issuer, okay, go ahead, you can proceed and talk to the attester.
yeah, yeah. So here is the thing. If if I if let's say forget the bottom part of this diagram. Let's say we keep rats relying party the same by combining some things like everything in the verifier. The core requirement still remains that when I change the evidence, I cannot change the appraisal policy for attestation results.
I see. Yeah.
I can like basically this policy then is set forever,
Right.
and the appraisal policy for attestation results essentially becomes static, and this simply makes this more clear.
Yes, and you know what? We should actually, it would be interesting to modify this diagram a little bit and separate the relying party owner box from the other three on the left, the endorser, the reference value provider, the verify owner. There's really a logical separation. Endorser and reference values are uh, pre-station, the verify owner has an appraisal policy that is during the verification, and then the relying party owner has, I mean, the life cycles of those things are drastically different, and the authority over these things are drastically different. By grouping them together at the top like this, it just blurs that distinction. What you just said, right, that the relying party owner appraisal policy is basically static and so should be moved, to much more to the right, separated from the other three. Because specifically the
You're
appraisal
just saying
policy
the visually they appear
visually
to be.
separate them, yeah. Yeah, because specifically like you said, right, for the V1 to V2 transition, not only the evidence is going to change, but the appraisal policy for evidence must
Yes,
change.
will correct.
So there's a very strong dependency between these two. So almost the verify owner appraisal policy for evidence should be moved all the way to the left. That's what is very dynamic. If we think about dynamicity, if that's the word, what's dynamic is you change the attester, right? You have a new version of the attesting workload. You must change the appraisal policy for evidence. That's dynamic. The endorser is actually quite static, so it should probably move to the right. And the reference value provider is also dynamic
Yeah.
because, yeah. So you see what I mean?
Well, yeah, I
There's
see what you're saying. It's the reason this was drawn this way is because I'm basically saying we're going to leave rats alone.
I understand. I understand. Because it just clicked when you were saying it, right? That the
Hmm.
relying party, the appraisal policy, again, you have this perspective. You think from the actual relying party, the eventual relying party, and your perspective that this thing on the right is completely static is extremely important in the discussion here. Because as you said, even if we were to collapse the rights relying party role with the verifier, you still have, you cannot,
Well, I
you
have
know,
this. In the new diagram, I have this. So there
yes.
is a rats unaware authentication policy, and then I'm basically stressing that this is the thing that gets set once and likely will not change in years.
Yeah, but so the relying party owner appraisal policy for attestation results, is that also static?
No, in this model, it's not. So in
Okay. So
this
I'm getting
model, when
confused
the
then.
evidence changes, then the appraisal policy for evidence can change. And also because, well, for one, you need to tell it,
Yes, you need to tell the verifier there's a new workload. Yeah,
right. And then the appraisal policy for attestation results can also change.
I
So
guess so.
if you go, and this is what I think confused Hank is because like, well, why are you introducing another box where we could, in principle, just
Right.
take all the dynamic functionality and move it into the verifier.
Right.
But then this effectively still like if you, in our diagrams you talk to this verifier service and you get one thing, and then you talk to the key store or certificate authority as it may be, and with the output of the previous step. And
Yeah.
the in the rats, like that's maybe another problem that I have with rats is the attester uh, simply does not, it's kind of one shot. It submits evidence and like looks does nothing else.
Right.
Right? Like
Which
I
which
can,
can't be. Yeah, it cannot
yeah.
be. Yeah.
So it's like I'm basically, is it 9664? Rodents. 9334. Okay. Let's think if I scroll down here, there is this picture. See, there is
Yeah.
like a tester doesn't even talk to the relying party here.
Yes. Yes.
And like how can that be?
Yeah.
Right? That the station results flow into it, and you know,
I think what they're saying is that everything else would be outside of the scope of rats. So you can then imagine that the relying party there has another sub box or whatever, and then it talks to the attester, but they're going to
Yeah,
say that's out of scope for rats.
right.
Then maybe that's why Hank was confused.
No, there's section 4. It's so again, like the reason we're having this discussion is I'm basically trying to figure out what is the best way to communicate to rats that, the pesky real world in which I operate needs a tweak to the diagram. And so that's again, but I do not want to run into resistance I can predict if I can get around
Right,
it now.
right.
Um,
So if I play the devil's advocate there, then why not they would tell you, I would think, that the rights relying party indeed does not talk to the attester, that if you want another box to talk to the attester, then the rights relying party would talk to that other box, which would be then the key store or the credential issuer, and it would talk to the attester, to the workload. And they would say that's, below, outside the rights scope. What your rights relying party does after it's done the rights thing is not their concern, right? And you could bootstrap theoretically if you keep, putting things in different boxes, you can slice it that way.
mhm.
And then, they would say that works. See what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if this can be drawn in a diagram because again, uh, like there is the goal I'm trying to accomplish here, and then there is the communication by which I want to accomplish this goal. They're not the same thing,
Okay.
right? So the goal is to make this box rats and the way relying party work, right? And the
Yeah.
observation is like quite and by the way, other rats documents, they really think that attestation results. So this is like maybe strengthening my case here. Attestation results are expressed as like AR for SI, right? You've seen that draft, right?
Yeah, the crazy. Yeah.
Well, but this it's not crazy. This is literally how they want to um
Right, the super low level stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so let's take a look at this. There's the latest version. And this is really what they're thinking about attestation results. So like when we just now said, well, you know what, the rats relying party can be my, rats and aware relying party so long as the appraisal policy for attestation results is fixed and you basically fold everything else into the verifier. Okay. But in that case, the attestation results that flow in here, well, they're basically saying make it this. All right. So um,
Yeah, I
let's look at
remember.
what is this? Because again, if that's what you want to standardize for RC, whatever you want to call it, fine. But look, cheap vendor, cheap hardware, target environment, target developer. Like in the real world, if yesterday I hosted on AMD and today I host on Intel, my relying party still doesn't care. So
Yeah, but
don't
that's
tell
what
it.
that's what they're saying. There's the rats relying party, and the rats relying party cares. And then they would say that your RUP, your rights unaware relying party, is just a separate box and gets its signal, its input from the rights relying party that will have done all that thing and say, yeah, it's okay to run on AMD and it's okay to run in that data center and it's okay to do all that. So it's kind of another verifier, right? That the rights relying party is doing verification against another, appraisal policy, and then delivers results to your rights unaware. Not sorry, then it cannot be it's not the workload. It's not the rights unaware unaware relying party, but it would be another box, which would be the credential issuer or the key store. That would just get the output of the RATS relying party would be, yes, you can issue the credential or you can pass the key.
Okay. But notice again that they now have trustworthiness vectors, right? And trustworthiness vector effectively says this, the trustworthiness vector is very much targeted at the relying party.
At the RATS relying party.
Yes, at the RATS relying party. So again, you have a trustworthiness claim for instance identity and executables and file system, hardware, and all of this. So there are all these claims, right? And uh, again, all of this is muddies the water for the relying parties that, I care about.
No, no, I understand. So let me ask this. Where do you think that those checks are useful or not? I think you agree they are, right? You need to check
Uh,
all of those things.
if for attestation results and for whatever examines them, if that's how you like, to me, if that's how you want to do it, go ahead and do it that way. I ultimately don't care, right? You want to do trustworthiness vectors for like apparently for confidential containers, they now support trustworthiness vectors. And I'm like, look, you have to understand, however, that when your workload went and got updated to run in a confidential environment, your relying party didn't know or care and cannot be expected to, right?
Right.
So the attestation results right here, yeah, they can be these trustworthiness vectors, and we can teach my key store to respond them and change the appraisal policy for these things accordingly. If that's how you want to go for it, do it. That all of that can be changed. What cannot be changed is this bottom part,
Right.
right? And that's the thing where rats, the way it's written, is breeding this.
Yeah, but I think so. I think the really the the place where how to say that it's
So look, they're
it's the
really
collision it's a
saying the
collision in terms.
relying party is getting attestation results augmented evidence, right? So their relying
Okay.
party still needs to change, still needs to
Yeah,
be
but look,
aware.
look, 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 go back up. Yeah, to the diagram. Look, they actually have slash verifier B. You see that?
Hmm.
Relying party slash verifier B. So I think really that's where the confusion is that the role of the RATS relying party as, an appraiser of the attestation evidence is itself doing a second layer of verification. And so that's why to me I think it's the terms that are confusing that they call the RATS relying party is in fact a second level verifier already, and it verifies another set of evidence or claims or endorsement values or what reference values that come with this process, the RATS process. So I think maybe what we should tell them is instead of calling it a relying party, why don't you call it a verifier B or a test what is it attestation evidence attestation result appraiser, right? Don't call it a relying party, call it an attestation result appraiser, something like that, because then
Yeah.
you would be okay with it. You would say, oh, okay, so that's not the relying
Well,
party.
it's almost okay with it because I still need, okay, but the thing that's still missing is that there's still a tester. So remember, we have two cases. One is the tester has a certificate, needs a key, and the other one is the tester has nothing and needs both the key and the credential, right? And what is not specified is call this thing whatever you want, the RATS relying party, call it verifier A, verifier B, but it's still underspecified. How does the tester then light up to speak
Correct.
to, right? And that's basically
What you care about.
what's
But
missing.
so yeah, that's the gap. Exactly. It's the gap between Spiffy and Rats, and neither of them is equipped to actually handle it because Rats
Right.
is saying this Rats unaware relying party or the key issuer and or the key store are outside the scope of Rats, but
Right.
the Spiffy guys are saying we trust the node and we do a
Yeah.
node attestation.
Everybody bails on credential bootstrapping. So that's
Correct.
what I call the no man's land between
Yes.
the right? The rats
Okay,
and
so
whips.
we are on the same page. Yeah, yeah.
We are. But see, the trustworthiness vectors, what my, you know, relying party here wants is still not the trustworthiness vector. Like,
Correct.
right. And
Yeah, you don't
that's
want that. Yeah, you don't want that.
so basically I'm saying, like, you want to do your RC in here between the verifier and the rats, whatever you call the rats relying party, fine. You can do that. And I'm basically preserving this terminology, kind of grinding my teeth and saying, not what I want, but fine, okay. No. But this stubborn entity at the bottom isn't going away.
Right.
So anyway, going back to this paragraph, I guess, given that I wrote this, can it be enhanced by putting something in here?
Well, I think your original text was clearer, in fact.
All right.
Because
Well, in that case, I can remove it. Like
yeah,
I just
because the
put it
rats
there.
relying party must have indeed, right? That's the binding. You have a binding challenge again. So you must cryptographically bind the issuance of the credential with the attestation process. So that's why the rats relying party must have a mechanism for returning to the attester. And it must have a cryptographically strong mechanism, or whatever. It's something that is bound to the attestation process itself. I guess it is you
Do
use
I
the
need to say secure and cryptographically strong, or because
ma-
secure can raise all sorts of flags with
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Like, what
yeah.
do you mean?
So I agree.
I don't know. Maybe I'll not say that for a second.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not hung up on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Osama is gonna say it has to be secure. It has to be
Well,
cryptographically bound.
for that we have security consideration section that
Right.
is still to be filled out. So again, towards the fact that this needs to become a draft now with almost almost exactly 2 months to spare. Can you just do me the courtesy of a review of the text that exists today and just like suggestion for what uh, I understand security considerations need to be added. I probably none. But what else needs to be said? Because like shorter is better. I just want to say the most important things.
Yeah, I agree. I can read it. I'll read it in detail today.
Okay. Hank, do you have any comments? I mean, based on anything you've heard just now?
I think he's catching up.
No, yeah, just trying to understand what's happening here.
Okay. So perhaps while Manu is reading over this text, there is this. The remote attestation is guided by RFC 9334. And in that RFC, the attester submits evidence to the verifier, and the verifier has endorsements, basically, who can speak for various parts of evidence. And the reference value provider with reference values that I guess need to be endorsed by the endorser. And the verifier owner basically says, and based on these endorsements and reference values, this is how you appraise evidence. And when all of this happens, verifier effectively runs a function with all these inputs, the evidence, the endorsements, reference values, and appraisal policy, and spits out this attestation results. So that's a function of the previous things. And then in RATS, the relying party assesses the attestation results with this thing called appraisal policy for attestation results. And that does not really work in a case where the attester has zero influence over the relying party, which is a lot of upgrade scenarios in the real world. So maybe I have some database and it's being accessed from Europe and it's being accessed from China. And let's say we don't trust China very much. So the payload, the attester running in China now is getting moved into the trust execution environment. Well, what we cannot do is we cannot approach in many organizations the relying party and go say, upgrade yourself to understand something new coming to you. And that could be because the relying party could be legacy and we don't have the ability to change it. Could be a SaaS vendor that's unwilling to change it, or it could be just an organization, another organization in a big enterprise that simply has bigger priorities and different things. Like it basically operates on different schedules as well. We're simply not changing for you. And today we have mechanisms for remote for authenticating, like workload identity mechanisms. We can basically give the tester a certificate and say, well, authenticate to the relying party via an MTLS with a certificate, or maybe a signed JOT with proof of possession. So long as relying party understands workload identity, it doesn't need to change. All you need to prove is that you need to prove that somebody thinks that the tester is the correct client for this relying party service, right? So what we're proposing is that the attestation results, instead of going to the what we call the ultimate relying party, the routes and aware relying party, actually this box on the bottom right here is some kind of a key store, certificate authority, and it receives the attestation results. And what it gives back the attester is either the attester already has a certificate, just needs a key, in which case this relying party is an HSM or some sort of key store, or the attester has nothing, and this relying party, in that case, is a certificate authority that issues to the attester certificate. And then there is, so in this diagram, you can see that there is this ultimate relying party, the RATS unaware relying party. And this communication is secured by existing legacy RATS unaware means. So MTLS with a certificate, or right. And the idea is the attester submits evidence like it does under remote attestation. The attestation results maybe hairpins through the attester, but goes to this key store or certificate authority that's called the RATS relying party here. But what's returned is a key or credential such that it can be then used by the attester to talk to the RATS unaware relying party that will not change, cannot be assumed to ever change. And this RATS unaware attestation policy is usually saying, so long as my credential issuer said this is the payroll app and you're the payroll database, then let them in. Otherwise, don't. And this policy, once set, will not change at all. And while attesters change all the time because hardware gets upgraded, software gets upgraded, bugs get found, new versions get rolled out, and all of that.
Thank you for the very quick introduction. I think this is really helpful.
So again, in our thing here, we've created. So let me put this in. You can get access to all of this if you simply request access, and goes into my Gmail, and I can. But the so we produced sort of not an IATF focused, but our own focused document here under replica workloads that you can read, that basically goes into more details on what we're doing, exactly how. This is a much more detailed specification. And in this specification, we assume that what's called RATS relying party is really a key store. So there is no anyway, and there is a threat model in there. So this is a much more expanded document. But we don't need to certify this or put this through IETF. This is simply how we propose things work. But yeah, so the Vienna submission is just the piece that the RATS working group needs to hear, in that whatever they called the relying party from where a lot of customers are sitting is simply not the relying party. The relying party is this thing that has never heard of confidential computing and probably never will. So yeah,
It really,
if you
sorry.
read this document, it will make a lot more sense.
Nice, nice. I think this is a really great intro to start to look into this. I also have some basic background of um, how in the real world scenario how the like T unaware party, and here should be the rest unaware relying party to use some attested workload in some way. And another thing I want to learn is at the beginning of this meeting you also show some pull requests. So how is that connected with the proposal you're reviewing?
Okay, so the connection there is, so there is this Whimsy working group, and there is the SPIFFE specification that generally follows the Whimsy architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And really, Whimsy is getting out of the business of explaining how credentials are bootstrapped. They very much want to focus on credential usage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about, well, in this case, they say, well, in some cases we have this broker, and the broker, allows a workload to, in this Istio mesh, whatever, ambient mode, the workload goes to the broker to get all its credentials. And we're simply checking to see, to what extent are they going to be able to coexist with whatever it is that we're proposing. So here, we basically looked at it and said, well, there is a problem with this proposal for sure, because it is dealing with the delegated identity API. So when we open the delegated identity API, what we see is the recipient, the message that gets received includes both a certificate and a key, but this key is private and it is plain text. Well, under trusted execution environment, under continuous computing, the key is not supposed to be visible outside of the workload,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're the replica workloads. So there's a little wrinkle here. The replica workloads document basically says, look, if we're going to have a lot of identical workloads, right? When you do horizontal scaling or serverless, you will in fact share the key between all the instances of these workloads. But if you are not that workload that passed remote attestation, you're not going to be able to see that key.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is a relay that's still a contingent on the fact that the workload still did talk to a verifier. And so what this proposal does is basically says the key will never be seen outside of two entities. It will not be seen outside your workload or your key store. So yeah, the key store is available in plain text in the key store, but the workload needs to pass remote attestation to receive it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it gets the certificate separately from its control plane, and it separately gets the key to use with that certificate by passing remote attestation. And that key, when you read through this diagram, it actually arrives into the workload. It's wrapped and it gets decrypted by the workload itself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the delegated API, you call something and it says, well, here's your certificate, and here is your plain text key. So if this message is not contingent on any kind of remote attestation and it doesn't travel over like in a way that only the authorized workload can see the key, the problem, of course, is the key will leak, and then you can no longer trust that this workload is really it and not some other.
Got it. Got it.
So that the problem here is that this is in plain text. Like if this was encoded, like encrypted in such a way that the workload needs to perform its own remote attestation to be able to decrypt it, then this would have worked. But as specified here, doesn't. So that was the first. Issue that we reviewed. The second issue we reviewed, 355. This is the one that says, well, the node on which the workload runs, maybe you should use some TPM or some other kind of attestation to say, well, it's really me. And again, they're missing the point that multiple workloads running on the same node may be mutually distrusting as well. So attesting just the platform, just the silicon on which you're running, doesn't actually give you everything you need to differentiate between two workloads running on the same hardware.
Got it. So, kind of understanding that this way. So basically, there's a big gap between the workload identity and the attestation, standard attestation. And now the problem is the two words doesn't really know the gap between them.
Correct.
Yeah, and here there are some working proposal in this trustworthy workload identity group, and those proposals should be checked against the existing say standard or implementation on the either attestation side or the workload identity side to make sure everything can be combined or integrated in some way. And now you just find out there are some problems and you want to point it out for those guys.
Right. So basically, they're operating in a world that's disconnected from that of their customers. That's the problem. In the world that I inhabit, which is we need to deploy these technologies, we simply do not have. We cannot change the relying parties. Like we're lucky if these relying parties understand workload identity, which is traditional X509 based. This workload has this certificate or this job, right? And that's as far as we can push them. And the designers of RATs and various products under RATs, they invented these things called trustworthiness vectors and things, but they're effectively imagining the relying parties being very pliable, and they're not. Right? So this is where, and by the way, we have a series of documents that you can scroll down. We have useful references. So we have our requirements document. It's in GitHub, so you can read it here. Like what are we trying to do here versus and under there we also have like a set of definitions that you can also read. It's in the same confidential computing, whatever, GitHub repo. Manu.
Yeah, I need to drop off, but I read the document. I think it's very sweet, short and sweet. Really the bottom line is that the RATs relying party is not the end of the cryptographic path, essentially. And either indeed it needs to go back itself to the attester, or it needs to have an output to another box that would be underneath on your diagram. That would then be the key store or the credential issuer or whatever. But that requires, cryptographic chaining all the way to that credential issuance. So that's the bottom line, is that the RATs relying party is not the end of the road. They, at the very least, they need to recognize that and enable the bootstrapping of the next stage of the process. So anyway, take care, have a good week, and then see you next week. Bye.
Okay, and Hang, you can email me, for any further clarifications, and I'm happy to provide them. But for now, if you want to sort of come up to speed on this work, simply read our definitions and our requirements, and the couple of documents I just put in the chat, and feel free to ask any additional questions. I'm more than happy to help you come up to speed.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I will catch up with all the documentation and maybe see you in the next meeting.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll wrap up for today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you.